Hey friends, welcome to the channel. So today we are gonna see, what if Dean was Lucifer's true vessel? Also check out my Patreon page for 18+ exclusive mature content. We will now proceed to the video. So, you're his vessel, huh? Lucifer's wearing you to the prom? Sam grimaced internally. He hated that expression, especially because now he was the dress, that's what he said. He struggled to keep the tremble out of his voice. Just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in, huh, Sammy? So, that's it? That's your response? Dean's apparent apathy cut him deeply. What are you looking for? I don't know. A little panic, maybe. Sam fought to contain his own. I guess I'm a little numb to the earth-shattering revelations at this point. What are we gonna do about it? What do you want to do about it? Dean sounded like he couldn't care less. I want back in, for starters. Sam. I mean it. I am sick of being a puppet to these sons of bitches. I'm gonna hunt him down, Dean. Oh, so, we're back to revenge, then, are we? Yeah. 'Cause that worked out so well last time. Not revenge. Redemption. So, what, you're just gonna walk back in and we're gonna be the dynamic duo again? His sarcasm was acidic. Look, Dean, I can do this. I can. I'm gonna prove it to you. His determination withered as silence answered his declaration. Look, Sam, it doesn't matter, whatever we do. I mean, it turns out that you and me, we're the fire and the oil of the Armageddon. You know, on that basis alone, we should just pick a hemisphere. Stay away from each other for good. Dean, it does not have to be like this. We can fight it, he was almost begging. Yeah, you're right. We can. But not together. We're not stronger when we're together, Sam. I think we're weaker. Because whatever we have between us, love, family, whatever it is, they're always gonna use it against us. And you know that. Yeah, we're better off apart. We got a better chance of dodging Lucifer and Michael and this whole damn thing if we just go our own ways. Dean, don't do this. Moisture crept into Sam's eyes. Bye, Sam. The click punctuated Dean's dismissal. Sam threw the phone into the passenger seat and pressed his foot down on the gas pedal. Dean. He cried out, tears blurring his vision. Dean, he begged to the air, don't make me do this alone. I can't do it. He pounded the steering wheel and fought back a violent sob. He pulled off the highway and allowed himself to weep openly. Tears and snot covered his face. He looked around for tissues, a cloth, anything to clean himself up. Moonlight glinted off the gun nestled in his duffel bag and he placed his hand on it. It was tempting. One press of his finger and it would all be over. Then Lucifer's words came back to him. I'll just bring you back. He drew his hand back as if burned and scrubbed his face. He focused on breathing and releasing the tightness in his chest. Coffee. He needed coffee. He wiped his face on his sleeve and pulled back onto the road. He turned the radio on and felt his heart skip a beat when Metallica reached his ears. He quickly changed the station and tried his best not to drown in the grief threatening to overcome him. He cemented his attention to the broadcaster's bored monologue about the pollination benefits of mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are actually critical for agriculture as we know it, the expert being interviewed was saying. Male mosquitoes live off of nectar, it's only the females that are bloodsuckers. Against his will, Dean's words came back to him. Listen to me, you bloodsucking freak. Dad always said I'd either have to save you or kill you. Well, I'm giving you fair warning. I'm done trying to save you. You're a monster, Sam. A vampire. You're not you anymore, and there's no going back. A strangled cry ripped from his throat and he slammed his boot to the floor, desperate to be away from all of this, any of this, anything that reminded him of his brother and his failure and the goddamn apocalypse. He was grateful that the next exit was 5 miles down the highway. He wasn't sure he could make it much further. Killing the engine, he gripped the steering wheel to still his shaking hands. Stop being such a little bitch, he chastised himself. He swung himself out of the too small car and into the minimart. ignoring the pang of nostalgia as he thought of the countless times he and Dean had made such stops as they crisscrossed the country. Regret constricted his airway and he staggered against the coffee machine, suddenly excruciatingly aware of all that he had lost. He and Dean had split up before, but there was a finality to Dean's words and tone that told Sam this time was different. Even with Lucifer looming over his shoulder, or maybe because of that, Dean wanted nothing to do with him. In Dean's mind, them being together would only expedite the apocalypse. Everything they had worked so hard for, everything Dean had sacrificed, all for nothing because Sam had fucked up. Sam had ignored the myriad warnings given to him by his brother, the angels, even Chuck. He thought he knew better and he had damned the world with his arrogance. Shame paralyzed his body and he fell to his knees. "Sir?" A concerned voice broke through his grief. Unwilling to face any level of scrutiny, he picked himself up and fled the bright lights of the convenience store. He scrambled for the safety of his stolen car and gunned it. Letting his body function on autopilot, his attention drifted to his situation. He was on the run again, bolting from the bar to protect Lindsay. He couldn't bear the death of one more innocent at his hands. The memory of Cindy's screams and begging rang in his ears and he fought his urge to vomit. He pushed down the cries and the bile, focusing on his task at hand. Hiding from Lucifer. Lucifer wanted him as a vessel to end the world. Just when Sam thought his life couldn't get any worse, the universe landed the worst known evil in his lap. He was Lucifer's true vessel. Had his entire life been for this? Was everything that had happened to him, his mother's death, Jess's death, his father's death, his death and Dean's deal, all of it, was it for this? The nausea returned as he considered his defiled body. And he had added to it, willingly, arrogantly thinking he knew better, thinking that he could control himself and the power the blood gave him. In retrospect, he saw that he had been played and he'd fallen for all of it. Humiliation gripped him and his spirit suffocated under the weight. No wonder Dean wanted nothing to do with him. Dean's cutting words drifted into his mind. Because it's not something that you're doing, it's what you are. It means you're a monster. His worst fears confirmed by the one he cared about the most. It was something Lilith had wielded against him in his moment of doubt. You turned yourself into a freak. A monster. And now you're not gonna bite. I'm sorry, but that is honestly adorable. Her taunting is what had pushed him to finally kill her. His worst fears used to mock him by the one he hated the most. His reverie was broken by the sound and associated shaking of the car engine sputtering. In the seconds it took him gather his attention and survey all the gauges, the car came to a complete stop. He growled in frustration and grabbed a flashlight from the glove compartment. He got out and popped the hood, trying to remember anything Dean had taught him. He suppressed all the memories associated with that thought. He was so focused on the task at hand that he didn't hear the footsteps approaching until it was too late. He turned a half-second too slow and spun directly into the fist of his assailant. He slumped to the side only to caught by another. The headlight pressed against his face and his eyes ached as the bright light ruined his vision. He felt his arms wrenched behind his back and the bite of cuffs around his wrists. He was dragged up by his hair and made to stand. He blinked against the dancing spots in his vision, but it was no use. "Sammy," a familiar voice cooed and he froze, fear curling up his spine. "Shoulda known we weren't gonna let you off so easy." "Tim, please, you don't have to do this," Sam pleaded. A rough hand gripped his jaw. "You've got no right to beg. Now, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Your choice." Sam grunted and brought his knee up to Tim's groin, satisfied with the yelp of pain he heard. "Fine, the hard way it is," Reggie said. He pushed Sam back and his head clunked against the engine block. By now, Tim had recovered and was looming over Sam. His eyesight had returned enough to see the bottle in Tim's hand and the dark liquid inside sloshing around. "I can help you kill the demons, but please, not like this." Tim snickered. "No, Sam. I tried it your way, and it got my best friend killed. Now, we're doing it my way. Open up." Sam clenched his jaw shut and turned away, the heat from the engine blistering his cheek. Tim grabbed his shirt and pulled him forward. Sam kept his mouth firmly closed as Tim popped the cork out and wafted the blood under his nose. He smiled as he reached forward and pinched Sam's nose. Sam tried his best to hold his breath, but his body chose survival after 42 seconds of burning agony. The moment Sam parted his lips to gasp for air, cool glass entered his mouth. The lukewarm blood poured in, coating his tongue. Using all his core strength, Sam flung himself up in an attempt to fight. Tim kept the bottle pressed to Sam's face as Reggie gripped his shoulders and swept his legs out from under him. Sam struggled against their grasp, his attention torn between freeing himself and not swallowing the blood. He was desperate to resist, but another part was ready to give in. Ready to surrender to the profane power pumping through his veins. Maybe he could. No, he had to. Spit it out. He renewed his attempt to escape, but Reggie had his arms pinned and Tim's hand was firmly clamped over his mouth. Another hand closed around his neck and air became scarce. His body betrayed him as his throat swallowed convulsively, dragging down both saliva and blood in a frantic quest for oxygen. He felt the familiar warm fuzz as the power seeped into him. He wanted to cry, though he wasn't sure if anguish or relief was the dominant emotion. He stopped fighting and his tall frame sagged. "You drink all of it, freak," Tim hissed, turning Sam's head with a rough grasp. Sam's eyes danced wildly as panic sparked like a live wire in his brain. "I think he got it all. Now we're gonna go clean up your mess." He punched Sam as hard as he could. The young hunter's body slumped and his head hit the pavement with a dull thud. They each grabbed an arm and put it over their shoulder, awkwardly moving Sam towards their vehicle. They unceremoniously dumped Sam's body in the trunk of Tim's white and faded red 1985 Chevy Blazer Silverado. Well aware of the Winchester reputation, they gagged Sam, took his phone and weapons, and put another pair of cuffs around his ankles. This monster wasn't going anywhere. Sam woke to complete darkness. He felt rough cloth against his face. It smelled of dirt and rotting flesh. Sam tried not to think about the possibilities for the previous contents of the bag. He wanted to move to relieve the aggressive aching in his limbs but found he was restrained. The soreness in his jaw made itself known as he choked on the foul-tasting rag in his mouth. He tried to listen to his surroundings, but his pulse thrumming in his ears overpowered all other sounds. He could sense he was moving, and by the cramped quarters, he was probably in a trunk. He attempted to recall what happened, what had gotten him in this predicament. The coppery taste of blood brought his memories flooding in and shame flushed his cheeks. Attack. Demon blood. Capture. He lurched forward as the vehicle came to a stop. He struggled to make out what the hushed voices outside were saying, but his galloping heartbeat made it futile. The hinges on the door squealed open. He made a pitiful attempt for freedom, but the two men just laughed. Tim yanked him up by the collar. They pushed his body to sitting but kept him in both the hand and ankle cuffs. Sam felt bodies press on either side of him as the car creaked down under their weight. Sam could feel someone's breath on his ear. He could also smell the booze over the acrid stench of his makeshift hood. "Okay, Sammy." The way Sam stiffened at the nickname did not go unnoticed if the brief huff was any indication. "Here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna go into this house, find those demonic bastards, and you're gonna kill every one of them with your freaky powers." Sam bristled and growled in defiance. "If you don't, we gut the girl nice and slow, then hand her over to the demons to use as a new meat suit. She's so pretty. I'm sure she'll be just what they're looking for." Sam's shoulders drooped. Fuck, they probably had Lindsay. He'd have to play along until he got a chance to free them both. He gulped, then nodded his head in agreement. "Ah, Sammy Winchester's got a soft spot for the girl, huh? Well, damn, this will be easier than I thought." "Up and at him, freak," Reggie baited as Sam was dragged up by the arms. He awkwardly shuffled forward in a vain attempt to keep up with the two hunters, but his limited movement hindered their progress. Impatient to use their new toy, they decided dragging Sam would be the most efficient mode of getting him into the house. His knees knocked painfully against the cement stairs and he fought to suppress a whimper when something sharp gouged his shin. They quietly slid his body down and let him rest in a heap on the floor. He could hear several voices inside the house. Someone bent down and unlocked the handcuffs around his wrist. "Go get the bitch in case he chickens out," Tim ordered. Sam heard faint footsteps scuffling away, the movement of fabric, and then Tim's voice uncomfortably close to him. "But you're not gonna do that, are you? You're gonna be a good little monster, aren't you?" Sam didn't answer. A swift kick to his gut elicited a yelp from Sam. The voices inside stopped. "Good job, you wuss. It's show time." Tim retreated to a safe distance and hid behind a bush in the yard. Sam slowly propped himself up and turned as the door opened. The demon inhaled deeply and grinned. "I smell your fear, you fucking pansies. Come out and fight like real men." Like, what was it? "Steve. Don't you say his name, scum," Tim shouted, poking out from his cover. "Can't hear you, scaredy cat. Why don't you come a little closer?" "I don't need to. You'll have your hands full soon enough." Tim nodded and the demon followed his gaze. The demon looked down and noticed Sam for the first time. "Oh, what do we got here?" The demon grabbed the burlap sack off Sam's head, taking some of his hair with it. "Well, if it isn't little Sammy Winchester," the demon said gleefully, rubbing his hands together. "Thanks for the present," he yelled in Tim's direction. Looking down at Sam, black eyes somehow glowing with delight, the demon sounded ecstatic. "Lemme tell ya, we're gonna have some fun. Boss says we can't kill ya, but doesn't mean we can't rough ya up a bit." Realizing everything was on the line, Sam shifted his body and kicked the demon in the shins with both his feet. The demon cried out and Sam used the distraction to roll over and heave himself up. With a quick side glance, he caught Tim's greedy face and Lindsay's horror, Reggie holding a shiny blade up to her throat. The demon blood was pumping through him hot and fast, begging to be utilized. Over the recovering demon's shoulder, he saw 3 more were approaching. Sam knew using his abilities constituted his only chance for survival. Closing his eyes, he swallowed the self-loathing and fear threatening to choke him and dove inside himself, seeking out the demonic power thriving within him. His psyche slipped down the frantic slopes of his mind, both dreading and relishing what would come next. A river of molten evil snaked its way through his soul, its fiery light eroding the sturdy canyons of his conscience. He had only a split second to contemplate the cruel glow before he was splashing into the malevolent lava in the valley of his being. A bittersweet pain inundated his mind and perversely, he enjoyed the complete abolition of any thought or feeling besides pain. Quicker than he liked, the sensation subsided and was replaced with a compression of warmth, like fire-melted marshmallow sealing around him. Settling into the peaceful, energizing feeling, he allowed the burning light to seep into him and fill his body. Opening his eyes, he raised a hand toward the smirking demon and drew upon the pressure building inside him. A violent wind surged through him and out his fingertips, ensnaring the demon in his hold. He could feel thin rays of energy escaping his body and pinning the demon down, coiling around the dark mass that was once a soul, preventing its escape. The pressure grew within him and took on the substance of powerful waves crashing into his soul. He knew he had to succumb to the raging maelstrom if he was to pull the demon without killing the host, but a part of him always fought for dear life. Perhaps he was fighting for what good remained of his soul. How many times could he drown in the evil pulsing inside him before he failed to surface? The demon laughed as Sam's hold withered due to his internal distractions. Shaking his head and refocusing, Sam took a deep breath and plunged, or was he dragged, beneath the brilliant, writhing surface of his unique corruption. Tension blossomed in his head and he directed the force outwards, urging the power to obey his tenuous control. The swirling smoke began to condense out of the bright blue-white of the host's soul. Fighting its forced eviction, it rose slowly, eventually flowing out the man's mouth. The thin line of Sam's lips smirked ever so slightly as he directed the demon into the fiery pool of light at the human's feet, silencing its desperate screams for release. As the last of the demon burned into the ground, he felt the ineffective thrust of demonic telekinesis sweep by him. He stepped over the unconscious body he had just saved and into the house. The three demons retreated, but it was too late. Arm outstretched, he anchored them to the floor and began the extraction process. 3 at once was pushing it, and he knew it, but he didn't see another way. Submerging himself further into the shining vortex, the pain returned and he felt blood start to trickle out of his nose as the pressure became too much to bear. He gripped their former souls and dragged them out, enjoying the simultaneous flickering of the embers as they died. Feeling himself sink even deeper, he shook himself out of his trance. He clawed through the viscous energy enveloping him, towards the surface, towards what was still good in him. Breaking through, he floated on the now calm river and welcomed the soothing embrace. Then he heard someone calling his name. Dean, he hoped. The voice sounded again and the disdain present told him it was not Dean. Shit. He was in danger. He scrambled out of the lava's comforting grasp and onto the rocky shore. He fought his way up the slope and reaching the top, he opened his eyes to alert awareness. 3 bodies lay in front of him, stripped of their demonic invaders. He'd done that. How had he taken out 3 demons at once? He'd never done that before. Was it even safe for him to? Sam collapsed to the ground, exhausted from his effort. He heard boots scuffling across the floor towards him. He strained to open his eyes and regretted it once he did. Tim was standing over him, his mouth in a tight smile. He raised his arm and something glinted in the light. In his post-exertion haze, Sam was slow to realize it was a gun. Words slowly trickled in. Damn if that demon wasn't telling the fucking truth. Tim spat. I'll assume everything else is true then. I would have liked to keep y'all around as a demon-hunting pet, but can't have you fucking up the world more than you already have. See you in hell, freak. A bright flash of light was all Sam registered before everything went dark. Sam gasped awake and immediately felt himself being crushed under something heavy. He moved as much as he could to feel what was on top of him, but the cuffs were still on him. Something wet hit his face and as he struggled for air, a lone drop fell into his mouth. Blood. His shoulders pressed into something soft and he realized he was under a pile of bodies. Focusing his eyes, he recognized a face staring down at him as one of the meat suits from the demons he had exorcised. Why kill them? I saved them. Sam thought with anguish. He tried to extricate himself from the tangle of limbs but it was hopeless. He was at the bottom and there was no escaping. He continued his struggle for a few more minutes but the best he could do was make himself slightly more comfortable. The vehicle came to a stop and the slamming of doors rattled the otherwise complete silence. 2 sets of footsteps briskly walked away. He listened for any clues as to where his captors were or what they were doing, but everything was calm. About 10 minutes passed when he heard the passenger door open and Tim gleefully say, "Time to light him up." And some things being moved around. Almost instantly he could hear Lindsay sobbing in the backseat and guilt surged over him. It was his fault she was in this situation. Had he picked any other bar, she would be fine. Grimacing with regret, he reminded himself of all the other people who had suffered just because they knew him. He wished, not for the first time in his life and probably not the last, that he'd never been born. He was a curse to all around him. The trunk squeaked open again and bright morning light reached his eyes through the macabre knot of corpses above him. He could hear the crackle of flames nearby. As each body was lifted off his and added to the pyre, he debated if he found it fitting or ironic that he would die in a fire. But, wait, hadn't he already died? Concentrating, he remembered the gleam of Tim's gun and the flash and then nothing. Either Tim was a terrible shot or utter terror exploded from every cell as he realized Lucifer hadn't been lying. If he died, Lucifer would just bring him back, and now he was in the hands of a psycho hunter. The last body on top of him lifted and Sam begged his body to cooperate with his most convincing attempt to play dead. His best hope was to get thrown on the fire, die, and be resurrected once the crazy duo were far away. He prayed to whoever was listening that he could be so lucky. The crunch of leaves and gravel underfoot grew louder and he prepared himself to hold his breath and become limp. The sound stopped and so did Sam's lungs. "Gonna take the cuffs off him?" Reggie asked. grabbing Sam's forearm and pulling it up. Suppose I should. Huh? Not worth wasting two good pairs on the freak. Sam heard Tim rustle in his pocket for the keys. The painful pinch of the cuffs soon released and Sam almost forgot to suppress his sigh of relief. Hands then gripped around his already chafed wrists and ankles and heaved him out of the trunk and onto the ground. Someone bent down and grabbed a wrist, then paused. Tim? You said you shot him in the head, right? Yeah. Why? I don't see a bullet hole. What? That's impossible. I basically shot him point blank. Hands enveloped his face and turned his head side to side. Fingers slid down to his neck in search of a pulse. Fuck. Can't hide that, Sam lamented. Finding the unexpected, the hand snapped back. What the fuck? He's alive. How? Reggie asked, his doubt tempering his fear. Why don't we ask him? With that, knuckles ground into Sam's sternum and he couldn't fight the surprised yelp that escaped his mouth. Have you been awake this whole time, you fucker? A forceful slap across his cheek made his eyes water and he looked up into Tim's angry red face. Tim crouched over him, his knees digging into Sam's abdomen and preventing him from drawing a deep breath. How the hell are you alive? Sam shook his head weakly. I don't know, he lied. Bullshit. Tim spat and pressed his knees down harder. Don't you fucking lie to me, you traitorous piece of trash. I'm not, Sam cried. Reggie shifted and put his boot on Sam's throat and drew his gun. Sam closed his eyes and braced himself. But the shot never came. Willing to stake her life on it? Reggie challenged. Sam looked and saw the gun trained on Lindsay. Okay, I'll tell you, he gasped, waving his hands in surrender. The foot came off and he coughed harshly, prompting Tim to shift his weight off his knees. Lucifer came to me in a dream and told me that I'm his vessel. Sam despised himself for stuttering. It revealed how truly afraid he was. His true vessel. He needs my body but I have to see consent. I told him I wouldn't let that happen, I'd kill myself. He said he'd just bring me back. I guess he wasn't. Lying. Disgust, rage, and hate mixed in a slow-turning kaleidoscope on the hunters' faces before Tim smiled maliciously. You know, I was just going to use you for revenge and smoke ya, but I'm thinking you'd be pretty handy to keep around, seeing as it's the apocalypse and all and you can't die. He looked up and smiled at his friend. I think I'm gonna keep him, Reggie. We can get him a collar and a kennel and a nice chew toy filled with demon blood. Our own person demon-killing pet. You're ours now. Lucifer can go fuck himself. Tim was exuberant and it wrenched Sam's stomach. Tim thrust the burlap bag back over his head and began kicking Sam mercilessly. Sam curled into a fetal position to protect himself, but it was of little use. Aching pain slithered around his entire body and paralyzed his joints. He couldn't even put up a fight as they manhandled Sam back into the trunk. They forced him to sit with his knees to his chest and link the wrist and ankle cuffs together. They slammed the door closed and complete darkness swallowed him. The whole situation was too cruel. Not only had he been manipulated into using his powers to free Lucifer, now he was gonna be someone's slave because of them. A tear slipped down Sam's cheek as he wished for Dean, then remembered that Dean thought they were better off apart. He stifled a sob as he felt his resolve begin to crack. He was completely alone, trapped in a prison of his own making. Hope the demon extraction wasn't too weird. Dean turned and beheld Castiel with overwhelming relief. That's pretty nice timing, Saws. We had an appointment, the angel replied stoically, a hint of humor lightening his voice. Dean put his hand on Cass's shoulder and squeezed. Don't ever change. Stoner Saws was a laugh but kind of useless. How did Zachariah find you? Long story. Let's just stay away from Jehovah's Witnesses from now on, okay? Sam. He needed to get to Sam, now. He pulled out his phone and started dialing. What are you doing? Something I should have done in the first place. The call went to voicemail and he growled in frustration. Sam. I need you to call me back like yesterday. We need to talk. He hung up and shoved the useless device back in his pocket. Dean looked at Saz and attempted to quell the emotions swirling within him. Saz, is it true? Is what I saw, is Sam right? Is he really Lucifer's vessel? Castiel's face became solemn and he shied away from Dean's anxious expression. From the information I have gathered via Angel Radio, yes, I believe Sam is Lucifer's true vessel. Dean closed his eyes and let the truth sink in. The confirmation that Sam was Lucifer's vessel was overpowering. It wasn't unexpected per se, what with Dean being Michael's vessel, but it was painful to have it confirmed. He'd hoped maybe Sam had just taken a nightmare too seriously. Though maybe Zachariah was fucking with him. No, it made too much sense. The boy with the demon blood would be Lucifer's vessel. How was this even reality? Him as Michael's vessel, Sam as Lucifer's. It seemed too neat and tidy, cliché even. But, he supposed, that's why it had taken so long and required extensive manipulation by both angels and demons. His interactions with Zachariah were proof enough of that. It was easy to see how Ruby had strung Sam along, a combination of physical addiction, ego stroking, and emotional support through profound grief. How many people could resist that? He sighed heavily and scrubbed his face. Saz was staring at him inquisitively, sympathy softening his stern features. God, Saz, I said some pretty messed up stuff to Sam earlier. I told him that we're better off apart, that we're weaker when we're together. He just told me some of the worst news ever and I basically told him to piss off. Forever. Saz mimicked Dean's earlier action and put his hand on Dean's shoulder, hoping to comfort him. Dean, it will be okay. If Sam was hurt by your rejection, he will likely readily welcome your acceptance. Dean nodded and swallowed his guilt. Sammy's always quick to forgive, even if I don't deserve it. Then you have nothing to worry about, Saz offered confidently. Saz returned Dean to the motel room and stood guard while Dean packed his meager belongings. The angel left him with a promise to return if Dean encountered Zachariah again, and Dean left the motel, eager to put as many miles as he could between himself and that nightmarish future. Bobby had sent him an intriguing case in Ohio, so he sped east. He stopped at a roadside diner for lunch and held off calling Sam again until after he had eaten. Sam, dude, call me back, it's important. It irritated Dean that Sam wasn't responding to his calls. He knew Sam was just sulking. It had happened before. When Sam needed space, he could make Dean feel like they were strangers. When actual distance was involved, Sam could maintain radio silence for days until he felt he'd gotten his head on straight. Problem was, in this case, he didn't know how Sam could have his head on straight with everything going on. Killing Lilith and Ruby, springing Lucifer from his lockbox, Bobby's possession, Zachariah's bullshit, finding out Dean was Michael's vessel, war, their split, finding out he was Lucifer's vessel. God, it was enough to make anyone's head spin. Sam had always been the more emotional of the two. It was sure to affect him far more than it was messing with Dean. He figured he'd give the kid another couple of days before he got too worried. The comforting scent of the Impala embraced him before he became aware of his surroundings. Slowly opening his eyes, he was slouched against the familiar leather seat. He remembered being jostled in the car for hours until the reassuring purr of her engine drew him into a deep sleep like it had done so many times before. Relief swept through him as he realized everything he had experienced must have been one hell of a nightmare. He supposed it made sense. The dream covered everything he feared the most. Dean abandoning him, being hunted down like a monster, innocent people suffering because of him, and the consequences of releasing Lucifer. He let out a breath he didn't notice he had been holding and turned to look at Dean. His brother smiled at him cordially. Good to see Sleeping Beauty's finally back with us, he jibed affectionately, and Sam relished everything about that moment. Dean's grin, the tone of his voice, his teasing eyes. Things Sam had been sure he'd never enjoy again. Sam smiled back and felt his heart ease. You're welcome, by the way, Dean offered. Sam's eyebrows scrunched in confusion. For what? Dean rolled his eyes and scoffed. For what, he asks, for bringing you back. Sam's breath caught in his throat and his heart rate accelerated. He felt pain and looked down, seeing his hands digging forcefully into his thighs. "Bringing me back from where?" he asked, almost certain he wouldn't like the answer. "From the dead." It wasn't Dean's voice that answered him. Cold blossomed in his gut. It was. Sam glanced up and his suspicion was confirmed. Lucifer smiled at him and Sam's fight or flight response went into overdrive. He spun in his seat and tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. "Relax, Sam. I can't get to you right now. I just thought we should talk about how things are going to go from here on out." Sam turned back, his chest heaving. "I'm dreaming again, aren't I?" Lucifer nodded, not taking his eyes off the imaginary road stretching out endlessly before them. He calmed slightly, reassured that he wasn't in the Archangel's clutches just yet. "What do you mean, here on out?" Lucifer sighed and drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, thinking. After a pause, he looked at Sam earnestly. "This situation that you're in now, Sam. It's bad. These hunters are going to figure out you're indestructible. I can't afford to let my true vessel be destroyed, so every time they kill you, I will resurrect you. The torment you'll go through, unimaginable. But it doesn't have to be this way." Sam snorted, masking his fear. Dean would be proud. Well, the old Dean would have. Dean despised him now. "What, all I have to do is say, yes, and you'll make it go away?" Lucifer smirked at Sam's insolence. "They did say you were smart. But yes, Sam, let me in, and I will obliterate everything that ever dare hurt you. You are my vessel, and I care about your well-being. Dean's, too. You know Dean is putting himself at risk by hunting alone. You know something will happen to him, whether it be Zachariah and Michael, demons, horsemen, or maybe just some bad tacos." Sam twisted away from the devil's assessment. "I can protect Dean from all of it if you say, yes, it's within your power to do one last good thing for your brother. I think you owe him that." Sam stared at his reflection in the window, so many emotions warring for control. He knew Lucifer was manipulating him, using the promise of Dean's safety to get what he wanted from Sam. Just like Dean had predicted. He lived in a cruel universe that used love as its most effective weapon. Dean would want him to say, no, at any price. He had to hang on to that. "No, I'll find a way to keep him safe. He'd never forgive me if I said, yes." Lucifer shrugged. "What's one more tally to add to the list?" "What list?" "Of things he'll never forgive you for. Think about it, Sam. You stole his perfect family from him 6 months after your birth. He sold his soul to bring you back and you didn't save him from hell. You were too busy being like your father, obsessed with revenge, though I doubt your father would forgive your interactions with Ruby, either. You chose a demon over your brother, almost killed him, and set me free, all in less than 48 hours. Hell of an accomplishment, if you ask me. Your very existence has turned his life upside down and inside out. How can he ever forgive you for such an egregious crime?" With every accusation, Sam shrunk into himself further and further. Lucifer was right, he was guilty of all those things, but it didn't justify unleashing Lucifer's uncontained power on a defenseless world. He'd hold onto his no, and never let go. Sam shook his head. "He can't and he doesn't have to. But I'm still not going to say, yes, try whatever you'd like. My answer will always be, no." The Archangel sighed with disappointment. "That's all right, Sam. I'll give you one more chance to change your mind and then we'll go from there." He reached over to pat Sam's arm, and every time their skin touched, violent, spasming pain erupted through his entire body. Lucifer smiled sympathetically before the whole scene blinked out of view. Sam's return to consciousness was greeted by the same electrifying agony as Lucifer's contact. He cried out and was rewarded by a cessation of the pain. He opened his eyes and saw Tim standing over him, a long black rod in his hand, pressed against his skin. 1.7 million volts, Tim snarled, treating Sam to another taste of what that felt like. His muscles clenched painfully and anguish convulsed his nerves. The wretched sensation stopped and Sam struggled to catch his breath. I'm gonna take these cuffs off and you're gonna march your freaky ass into that basement and we're gonna have a nice little chat. Or you get more of this." He waved the wand in Sam's face. "Got it?" Sam nodded and averted his eyes, unwilling to see that much disgust aimed towards him. Memories of Dean showering him with equal disdain pressed in on him and he wished for death. But Lucifer had been clear. Sam was to be denied even that mercy. Tim unlocked the cuffs around his feet and motioned for Sam to move. His sore muscles refused to cooperate and Tim caressed his face with the tip of the prod. "Move faster." Driven by fear, he forced his stiff body to unfold and made it to his feet, sheer willpower keeping him upright. Inside, his captor directed him forward, the prod kept at the base of his neck. Surveying his surroundings, Sam saw they were at a farmhouse with no other residences in sight. A realtor's sign hanging in the front lawn told him the chance of rescue by accidental discovery was slim. The storm cellar could be locked from the outside, which would certainly hinder his escape. Trudging down into the gaping darkness, everything in him sagged as he saw Lindsay sitting nervously on a crate, her hands cuffed in front of her. Reggie was beside her, leaning against the damp wall. She looked up at their entrance, the fear on her tear-stained face evident and alive. Sam made a step to go towards her, but Tim pushed the power button on the prod just for a second and Sam unwillingly halted. This way." Reggie pointed to a large swivel eye hook hanging from the ceiling. Sam's stomach knotted as he made his way there, knowing freedom was slipping away from him. "Come on, Sam, don't make this difficult. You know what you have to do." A stool was positioned under the hook. Sam's mind raced as he searched for a way out, but the click of a cocked hammer stilled him. Tim had a gun to Lindsay's forehead. Sam gulped and stepped up, lifting his arms over his head. Pulling up another crate, Reggie opened the swivel of the hook and slipped the chain of Sam's cuffs into the eyelet. The swivel snapped shut and Reggie got down. Tim circled Sam slowly a few times, well aware he was increasing Sam's anxiety. With a quiet scuffle, he kicked the stool out from under Sam and the young hunter's body plunged down 2 feet. A thin crunch filled the silence and Sam cried out as his wrists snapped and his shoulders popped out of their sockets. Burning pain ripped down his arms as crushed sensitive tissue wailed its neurochemical distress. "Please," he gasped, unable to say anything more. A stinging slap to the face answered his plea. "You're not worthy of any mercy. You started the damn apocalypse. Now, start from the beginning. How long have you been working for Lucifer?" Sam shook his head, as much an answer as to give himself time to think through the pain. God, I haven't been working for Lucifer." "Bullshit!" Tim exclaimed angrily, backhanding the other side of Sam's face. "It's not, I swear." "Then how do you explain all of this?" The sweeping gesture of his arm implied Sam was responsible for all the evil in the world. I'll tell you, just, please, let me down, I can't. "Oh, do you want a nice cup of hot cocoa and some cookies?" Tim elbowed Sam in the groin. "Payback. Guess it sucks to be you. Start talking. What good will it do you?" "It's all in the past," Sam stated flatly. "I don't want a justification, freak. I want you to do as you're told. Remember, you're my slave now. Whatever I want, I get. And I want to know how you started the fucking end of the world." His voice rose to a scream at the end. "Or did you already forget our little arrangement?" Tim drew a knife from his belt and approached Lindsay, tracing the tip of the blade up her arm and onto her collarbone. "You do anything I don't like." He lifted the knife up behind her, "and she dies." He swung the knife down and Sam shouted and Lindsay tried to curl into herself. Tim laughed as he held up a handful of the hair he had sliced from her head. He let it rain down over the frightened woman. Bolstered by adrenaline, Sam mustered his strength and did his best to suppress the pain. He didn't want to review his fall from humanity in detail, so he hoped he could get away with the bare minimum. I was cured as a baby," he explained, gasping for air every few syllables. "A powerful demon infected me with its blood. Somehow that gave me visions that started a few years ago. Turns out this demon was trying to make," he paused, hating how bad this sounded. Keep going, Reggie commanded. He was trying to make special children to lead his army of demons. One of those children killed me. Dean made a demon deal to save me, his soul for my life. An angel eventually rescued him from hell, but while he was gone, shame strangled his voice and he stared down at his heaving chest, for once welcoming the pain searing through his mind. In my grief and desire for revenge, I was manipulated by a demon who claimed to be helping us. She got me. He glanced towards Lindsay, who was staring at him with a mix of disbelief, fear, and sympathy. Addicted to demon blood. Made me think by using it, that I could help people turn Azazel's curse into something good. When we found out the seals were being broken by Lilith, Hold up, seals? They're, like the locks on Lucifer's cage. 66 had to be broken out of the hundreds possible. Why now all of a sudden? Reggie asked. Because the first and last seals were very specific and had to occur in order. So which seals did you break? Tim queried, his eyes alight with malicious curiosity. I only broke the... Sam stopped abruptly. If he shared that Dean broke the first one, maybe these psychos would go after him, too. He couldn't let that happen. I only broke the first and the last ones. Tim's fists clenched. And, pray tell, how did you manage that treasonous feat? Fuck. Time to sell it. I didn't know it at the time, I swear, but the first time I exorcised a demon when I was powered up by blood. That was the first seal. The last seal was killing Lilith. I thought killing Lilith would stop the seals breaking, but she was the last seal. I didn't. No. They tricked me. Don't you see I was trying to stop all of this? Dean and I actually saved a number of seals, but the angels were working against us. They want the apocalypse. Tim shrugged. They can want it all they want, but it was you and your mistakes that landed us here. What? Are you so pathetic you can't make it without your brother? Dean's gone and you dive headfirst into evil? He eyed Sam hatefully. Dean made it without you for years while you were at Stanford, being all high and mighty. What, the hunt and life not good enough for you, hotshot? Think. Saving people's lives isn't worth your precious time? He spat on Sam, his anger starting to boil over. Or did you already know what a freak you were even back then? I bet you've always known it. Fucking disgusting mutant. Shit. Dean must be so ashamed of you. Sam closed his eyes and tried to stop the tears threatening to leak in. He's a far better hunter than you'll ever be. I mean, you just slowed him down while you were a kid. Almost got him killed a few times, too, if I remember, Reggie added. Yeah, I think you're right. Still, he and John did their best and then you run off like the ungrateful piece of shit I knew you'd turn out to be. John should have gotten rid of you when he had the chance. Dean's voice blared in his mind. He said that I might have to kill you, Sammy. Dad always said I'd either have to save you or kill you. Well, I'm giving you fair warning. I'm done trying to save you. Out of nowhere, the rigid force of a splintered wooden plank slammed into Sam's stomach and he cried out, bringing a smile to Tim's face. Long slivers of wood pierced his skin and implanted themselves in Sam's abdomen. You are fucking scum. Tim shouted, swinging the plank again, driving the fragments in even deeper. Sam gasped in agony, his body unable to bring in enough air. You are worse than anything I've ever hunted. You were supposed to be on our side, you goddamn traitor. You've doomed us all. Discarding the wood for a crowbar, he began to wail on Sam's writhing body mercilessly, all the while screaming. My best friend is dead because of you. I should be burning your body instead of his, but no, you won't. Fucking die. A solid blow landed on the iliac crest of Sam's left hip and he only had a moment to appreciate the reality-altering pain that was a shattered hip before he passed out. Misery crept around the edges of his consciousness, preventing his return to oblivion. Awareness dropped him 10,000 feet onto a plane of serrated knives and everything hurt. The only thing he could move was his neck. He struggled to lift his head and was rewarded with Lindsay's horrified gaze. Her eyes were red. She'd definitely been crying. Guilt surmounted his aching body and he forced himself to speak. Lindsay, I'm so sorry. If I had known any of this would have happened, I never would have stepped foot in the bar. I know I can never make it up to you, just know that it's killing me what they're doing to you. Her eyes got wide and she let out a slightly hysterical laugh. What they're doing to me? She rattled her cuffs. This is the worst they're doing to me. Sam, what they're doing to you, She shook her head, words unable to express her frantic emotions. Sam looked away. I deserve it, he said quietly. I don't know that I believe whatever the hell you guys were talking about, but, apocalypse or not, no one deserves to be hung by their wrists and beaten. On top of that, it sounds like you thought you were doing the right thing. Guess it's true that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, Sam scoffed. Lindsay sighed and an unsteady silence hung between them for a few minutes. Sam tried to concentrate on an escape plan, but the torment plaguing his body robbed him of all focus. How long had you known about your powers? Lindsay asked quietly. Sam looked up and into Lindsay's eyes, but found her expression unreadable. A few years ago, I was at Stanford, studying to become a lawyer, he began. That explains a lot, she commented seriously. He huffed out a weak laugh. I liked it, but clearly it wasn't meant to be. I had a nightmare that my girlfriend died, but I thought it was just a nightmare. See, when Azazel, the demon who cursed me, came into my room as a baby, my mom tried to stop him. He killed her by cutting her stomach open, pinning her to the ceiling, then setting the house on fire. Lindsay's mouth dropped open in shock. I know, it's horrible, but I obviously don't remember it. Anyway, that's how I dreamed Jess died, so I thought it was my brain just messing with me. He paused, tears successfully breaking free now. But it wasn't, he said in a strangled whisper. It was my first vision. I went away with Dean for a weekend, and when I came back, her blood dripped onto my. She was on the ceiling, he gasped, sobs convulsing his body, enhancing his suffering even more. I'm sorry. That sounds so awful. No one should have to go through that, she murmured comfortingly. Sam sniffled and tried to compose himself. I should have known to never go near people again. Everyone I get close to dies. I'm sorry, Lindsay. I'll get you out of here, I promise. He looked over at her, earnestly conveying his last wish. She smiled sweetly and stood up. It's okay, Sam. I believe you. She pushed the crate over to him with her feet and clambered up. On the crate, she was eye level with him. Though really, you should be much more concerned about getting yourself out, she whispered in his ear. His brows furrowed. What? What do you? He turned to look at her, and as she smiled, the gray of her eyes rolled back to reveal hazy white. Fear petrified Sam. You're dead. I killed you. How are you here? The woman in front of him flopped her blonde hair over her shoulder and grinned. Like Lucifer would make me miss out on all the fun. A pair of pliers booped his nose. Open up, tough guy. I want to hear lots of screaming. Grasping his tongue with the cool metal, Lilith wasted no time in getting her revenge. Another irritating zap of electricity dragged him back to wakefulness. Simmering beneath the acute pan of his injuries, a frantic pressure was needling along his nerves. He knew exactly what that was. Withdrawal. Fuck. He couldn't do this again. He couldn't do any of this. He wanted to die. Except he couldn't. Fuck you, Lucifer. He shouted internally. A more powerful shock tempered his anger and made him focus his attention externally. Open your eyes, bitch. Show me you're awake, a harsh voice snarled. After a few moments of blinking against bright light, Tim's blurry figure resolved in Sam's vision. The gleeful look on Tim's face warned Sam of some impending misfortune. Tim sidled up to the right side of Sam's body and wrapped his arm around, forcefully patting Sam's obliterated hip. The whimpers only made him grin wider. All right, Sammy. It's time to see just how much damage Lucifer can repair. Hope you don't mind being used as monster bait. Bait for what? Sam asked, fear washing through him. Tim shrugged. Not sure yet. But something's eaten people up in Nebraska, so I thought we'd go check it out. Use you as living bait. Track down the creature. Easy. Well, for us at least. Sam shook his head as much as his tortured muscles would allow. Don't do this, please. Tim sighed disapprovingly. Come on, we've been over this. Begging will get you nowhere. But, I'll be generous with you here. I acknowledge that all pets need to be trained. I mean, you're practically feral. So we'll start from the beginning. If you're bad, you get hurt. If you're good, you get a treat. He raised his hands and wiggled a granola bar in one hand and a bottle of water in the other. Sam just stared at him, aghast at the proposal. His stomach rumbled at the sight of food though, and he tried to remember when he had last eaten. He grabbed a quick bite before he left Garber, which was probably only 12 hours ago, give or take a few depending on how long he was asleep or unconscious. He puffed up his aching chest in defiance and spat out a venomous, "Fuck you." Tim stepped forward and slapped him. He shook his head as he motioned to Reggie. I wasn't gonna do this if you behaved, but if you're going to be like that, you leave me with no choice. He pulled something out of the bag Reggie supplied and smiled as he held it up to Sam's face. It took Sam a few seconds to recognize the band of textured fabric and the black box attached to it. A shock collar. Tim settled the collar around Sam's neck and moved back, satisfied with the fearful expression on Sam's bruised face. "Wanna talk back again, dog?" Sam stayed silent and Tim smirked in triumph. Reggie stepped forward, holding a scalpel and a small metallic square in his hand. What are you doing?" Sam asked quietly. Tim's finger spasmed over the button on the shock collar controller, but he relented. "You will only speak when it is required of you, dog. But since you asked so nicely. Reggie, wanna fill him in?" The other hunter walked behind Sam and began cutting off his shirt with a razor. "This is a tracking device. I am going to implant it in your shoulder. Necessary for both our next hunt and to make sure you don't stray too far." "Please don't do this to him," Lindsay pleaded, speaking up for the first time. "He's done what you asked, don't do this." Tim's lip twitched with irritation. He stormed over to her. "Did I fucking ask you?" He slapped her hard, his hand leaving a brightening red spot on her cheek. "Not another word from you either." He turned back to Reggie. "Do it so we can get going." Reggie nodded and sprayed Sam's shoulder with rubbing alcohol. Without warning, he pushed the scalpel into Sam's shoulder, in a place he knew would be just out of reach. Sam screamed as the sharp blade sliced through skin and connective tissue, but he was relieved when he sensed his muscle was intact. He felt Reggie push the 2 inches x2 object under his skin, the sharp edges tearing at him. A few quick stitches and Sam had been chipped, as if he were any other disobedient animal prone to running away. After Reggie placed a gauze bandage, the 2 hunters began packing up the basement. Both men left for the vehicle and Lindsay pounced on the opportunity to check on Sam. "Sam, how are you doing?" She frowned when he didn't respond. "Sam?" she asked louder. "HMMPH." He responded weakly, his head still hanging down on his chest. "Sam, talk to me. How are you doing?" He winced at her tone, his exhausted mind unable to reconcile her concerned voice with Lilith's previous depravity. "I'm hanging in there," he said bitterly, but he couldn't stop a small smile from creeping onto his face. "Very funny. But, really, what happened earlier? You scared the hell out of me. I tried to get you off the stupid hook and you just started freaking out. I thought you were going to hyperventilate. You started screaming when I touched you." Sam gulped, suddenly becoming consciously aware of the unnerving burning tremor slinking around his body. "The blood, it gives me withdrawal, and because the addiction is kind of supernatural. The withdrawal is kind of supernatural. Very powerful hallucinations are a particular problem. I thought you were the demon that killed my brother." Lindsay sighed sadly. "I'm so sorry, Sam. Withdrawal is a bitch, no matter what the drug is. How are you feeling now?" "Everything hurts, but that doesn't matter. We need to figure out how to get you free." "Both of us free," she corrected. Sam shook his head. "That's not going to happen and we both know it. But I think I can get you out. I'll make their life as difficult as possible until they let you go." No. They'll just hurt you more. I can't live with that. I can't live with you being stuck here. Please, Lindsay, let me do this for you. She shook her head, but he kept going. It'll make this so much easier for me if I know you're safe. Just give me this, please. Let me help someone, he begged. The glistening of his eyes was met with her tearful ones. She nodded and choked out an, okay. Good, good, he murmured with relief. I'll try to help whenever I can, but you may have to make a break for it. And if you do get out, don't you dare come back for me. Don't even tell anyone about me. I'm not worth the risk to you. If you go back to Garber, always keep an eye peeled. A slow clap startled both captives, and they turned to the storm door to see the two hunters. Tim looked like he was doing his best to suppress a giggle. Reggie just looked annoyed. Sam, you really do care about her, don't you? Sam looked to the floor, cursing himself for not noticing their presence. How about this? Let's make a deal. If you comply wholeheartedly from here to Nebraska and do your part as monster bait, we'll give her the chance to escape. Lindsay inhaled sharply and started to say, no, but Sam gave her a scathing look before returning his eyes to Tim. Deal. Tim grinned maliciously. Great. All right then, let's get you packed up. Reggie stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Sam's waist. Sam's hips pressed into the hunter's shoulders as he lifted Sam's. Wait, eliciting a cry of pain from the young hunter. Tim stepped onto the crate and unhooked Sam's cuffs and let Sam's body drape over Reggie. Tim beckoned for Lindsay to follow them out. Lances of agony speared through Sam as Reggie's wide gait moved him from one prison to another. The bright glare of midday's sun made Sam